Hello and welcome to BeFM Drama, where we turn great works of English literature into gripping radio. I'm your host, Joshua Cornwell, and today we're bringing you part 3 in our 5-part adaptation of The Yellow Face, a classic Sherlock Holmes mystery from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Holmes and Watson are listening to the strange tale of their client, Grant Munro. His story centers on his young wife, Effie, whom he met and married after her previous husband and young child died in Atlanta, Georgia. As we rejoin Grant Munro's account, Effie has just snuck out of the house in the middle of the night for some unknown reason, soon after hearing that neighbors had moved in to a nearby cottage. There's something strange about those neighbors, however, as when Munro passed them by, he was shocked by the sight of a bizarre, staring face watching him from the upper window. A face with an inhuman yellow tint. Join us now as the young man's strange story continues here on BeFM Drama. Munro lay there wide-eyed for about 20 minutes, turning the thing over in his mind and trying to find some possible explanation for his wife's odd behavior. The more he thought, the more extraordinary and inexplicable did it appear. He was still puzzling over it when he heard the door gently close again and his wife's footsteps coming up the stairs. He spoke to her as she entered.
Where in the world have you been, Effie?
She gave a violent start and a kind of gasping cry when he spoke, and that cry and start troubled him more than all the rest, for there was something indescribably guilty about them. His wife had always been a woman of an open nature, and it gave him a chill to see her slinking into her own room and crying out and wincing when her own husband spoke to her.
Oh, you awake, Jack? Why, I thought that nothing could wake you.
Where have you been?
I don't wonder that you were surprised.
He could see that her fingers were trembling as she undid the fastenings of her mantle.
Why, I never remember having done such a thing in my life before. The fact is that I felt as though I were choking, and I had a longing for a breath of fresh air. I really think that I would have fainted had I not gone out. I stood at the door for a few minutes, and now I'm quite myself again.
All the time that she was telling him this story, she never once looked in his direction, and her voice was quite unlike her usual tone. It was evident to him that she was saying what was false. He said nothing in reply, but turned his face to the wall, sick at heart, with his mind filled with 1,000 venomous doubts and suspicions. What was it that his wife was concealing from him? Where had she been during her strange expedition? He felt that he would have no peace until he knew, and yet he shrank from asking her again after once she had already told him a lie. All the rest of that night, he tossed and tumbled, framing theory after theory, each one more unlikely than the last. He should have gone to the city the following day, but was too disturbed in his mind to be able to pay attention to business matters. His wife seemed to be as upset as himself, and he could see from the little questioning glances she kept shooting in his direction that she understood that he disbelieved her statement, and that she was at her wit's end as what to do. They hardly exchanged a word during breakfast, and immediately afterwards Munro went out for a walk that he might think the matter over in the fresh morning air. He walked as far as the Crystal Palace, spent an hour in the grounds, and was back in Norbury by 1 o'clock. It happened that his way back took him past the cottage where he'd seen that strange face and spoken to the surly woman the day before. And he stopped for an instant to look at the windows, wondering if he might catch a glimpse of that strange face again. It does not take very much to imagine his surprise as he stood there, when the front door suddenly opened and his wife walked out. He was struck dumb with astonishment at the sight of her, but his emotions were nothing to those that showed themselves upon her face when their eyes met. She seemed for an instant to wish to shrink back inside the house again, and then, seeing how useless any lie would be, she came forward with a very white face and frightened eyes which betrayed the smile upon her lips.
Oh, Jack, I've just been in to see if I can be of any assistance to our new neighbours. Why do you look at me like that, Jack? You're not angry with me?
So this is where you went during the night.
What do you mean?
You came here, I'm sure of it. Who are these people that you should visit them at such an hour?
I have not been here before.
How can you tell me what you know is false? Your very voice changes as you speak. When have I ever had a secret from you? I shall enter that cottage and probe this matter to the bottom.
No, Jack, for God's sake!
As he approached the door, she seized his sleeve and pulled back with convulsive strength, her face wild with unconstrained emotion.
I implore you not to do this, Jack. I swear that I will tell you everything someday, but nothing but misery can come out of it if you enter that cottage.
He tried to shake her off, but she clung to him in a frenzy of entreaty.
Trust me, Jack. Trust me. Only this once. You will never have cause to regret it. You know that I would not have a secret from you if it were not for your own sake. Our whole lives are at stake in this. If you come home with me, all will be well. If you force your way into that cottage, it's all over between us.
There was such earnestness, such despair in her manner that her words stopped him, and Munro stood irresolute before the door.
I'll trust you on one condition, and on one condition only. It is that this mystery comes to an end now. You're at liberty to keep your secret, but you must promise me that there will be no more nightly visits, no more doings which are hidden from my knowledge, and I am willing to forget the lies in the past if you will promise that there will be no more in the future.
Effie took a deep sigh of relief at her husband's words.
I was sure that you would trust me. It shall be just as you wish. Come away. Oh, come away up to the house.
Still pulling at his sleeve, she led him away from the cottage. As they went, he glanced back, and there was that livid yellow face watching them out of the upper window. What link could there be between that creature and his wife, and how could the coarse, rough woman whom he had seen the day before be connected with her? It was a strange puzzle, and yet he knew that his mind could never know ease again until he had solved it. For 2 days after this, he stayed at home, and his wife appeared to abide loyally by her promise, for, as far as he knew, she too never left the house. On the third day, however, he had ample evidence that her solemn promise was not enough to hold her back from the secret influence which drew her away from her husband and her duty. He had gone into town on that day, but returned by the 2:40 instead of the 3:36 train, which was his usual one. As he entered the house, the maid ran into the hall with a startled face.
Where is your mistress?
I think she's gone out for a walk.
His mind was instantly filled with suspicion. He rushed upstairs to make sure that she was not in the house, and as he did so, he happened to glance out of one of the upper windows and saw the maid, with whom he had just been speaking, running across the field in the direction of the cottage. Then, of course, he saw exactly what it all meant. His wife had gone over there and had asked the servant to call her if he should return. Tingling with anger, he rushed down and hurried across, determined to end the matter once and for all. He saw his wife and the maid hurrying back along the lane, but he did not stop to speak with them. In the cottage lay the secret, which was casting a shadow over his life. He vowed that, come what might, it should be a secret no longer. He did not even knock when he reached it, but turned the handle and pushed right through the front door. Who are these mysterious strangers who appear to have such a strong hold over Munro's young wife? And who does that horrifying yellow face belong to, watching from the upper window? What will Munro find in the cottage as he storms through the front door to discover what lies inside? Find out tomorrow evening here on BeFM Drama as we come to the end of Munro's strange account. I'm Joshua Cornwell, and I played the role of the narrator, Dr. Watson. Grant Munro was played by David Kim. Effie Munro and the maid were voiced by Laura McLucky.